Number 10. The Golden Hercules. In 1864, one of the most amazing statues from the days of the Roman Empire was discovered underneath a courtyard. The statue was excavated from beneath Rome's Palazzo Pio Righetti during the construction of a banker's villa. The statue is a flawless depiction of Hercules. He's leaning on his club and holding one of Hesperides' magic apples in his other. It was crafted from bronze and gilded in pure gold. It is one of very few golden statues recovered in Italy. Although there are plenty of golden artifacts, it was extraordinarily rare for a whole statue to be gilded in gold. The fact it survived 2,000 years buried beneath Rome is incredible. This thing is 13 feet tall, making it one of the largest ancient Roman statues ever found in such good condition. It's believed the Golden Hercules statue was most likely constructed around the 2nd century BC. Researchers found the letters FCS inscribed on the artifact, which stand for Fulgur Conditum Sumanium. The translation into English is, "Here is buried a Sumanian thunderbolt." Sumanus was the god of nocturnal thunder. Romans believed any object that was struck by lightning was made divine by the thunder god. Scientists think the golden statue was struck by lightning 2,300 years ago. Then it underwent a complex ritual to be buried beneath the city. The Hercules sculpture has been stashed in the Vatican Museum for decades. In 2023, conservation work started to return the Colossus to its former glory. Experts are now removing centuries of dirt and grime so that the mighty Hercules sparkles as brightly as the day it was first gilded in gold. And now for number 9. But first I wanted to give a big shout out to Deb Zolson and Brawny2K. Thanks so much for watching and supporting OE. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Number 9. Oxygen on Mars. For the first time ever, a robot built by human hands has generated a significant amount of oxygen on Mars. NASA's Perseverance rover just completed an experiment to create enough oxygen to keep an astronaut alive. The robot created enough oxygen for an astronaut to breathe normally for 3 hours. It might seem small, but it's a big deal for future Mars missions. It's this kind of technology that will allow humans to colonize Mars one day, turning the idea from science fiction into reality. Perseverance landed on Mars in February 2021, and it was equipped with something called the MOXIE device. The device generates oxygen by converting carbon dioxide. The only issue, and it is a big issue, is that it takes a long time. The experiment lasted 2 long years. It took 2 years for the little robot to create enough oxygen to keep an astronaut on life support for a measly 3 hours. It isn't exactly the breakthrough scientists need, but it's given NASA researchers hope that human life will be sustained on an inhospitable planet in the future. It's small discoveries like these that gradually push the human race closer to becoming an interplanetary species. NASA headquarters said in a statement that the discovery has brought them one step closer to a reality in which people will be living off the land on Mars. And that's a pretty big accomplishment. The exact amount of oxygen created by the MOXIE device was 122 grams or 4.3 ounces. That's just enough oxygen for a dog to survive 10 hours on Mars, which is pretty impressive. Number 8. Ritual magic in ancient Egypt. Near the Red Sea in Israel, archaeologists discovered a collection of artifacts from 400 years ago. The artifacts were collected during the 1990s, but they were only recently analyzed by researchers from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The collection of artifacts was uncovered near the Darb al-Hajj road. This was an extremely important highway that ran from Cairo across the Sinai Peninsula, over the Arabian Peninsula, and then all the way to the pilgrimage center of Mecca. The foundation for the road was laid sometime around the 7th century AD. Then it was traversed up until it fell out of favor in the 19th century. Being used as a main road for so many years, the Darb al-Hajj is littered with ancient relics. The issue is that most of them are buried way beneath the surface, where they remain difficult to find. This collection from the 90s included fragments of clay rattles, miniature incense altars, and colored pebbles. It also had an animal figurine and one very impressive statuette of a goddess. The newest analysis suggests that the objects came from Egypt and may have had magical properties. They were likely used by pilgrims 400 years ago to protect themselves from evil while on their journey to Mecca. Specifically, they would have been used to ward off the evil eye, a terrible curse that was believed to be prevalent during the Islamic Age. And so too was it feared in Europe during the Middle Ages. It was believed that just about anyone could curse you with a look. Carrying votive figurines and tiny statues of goddesses was thought to protect a traveler from the evils of those who would curse them. Number 7. The Beach Crater. A dog walker in Ireland found a mysterious crater on the beach. The man was taking a stroll along Portmarnock Beach when he came across a suspicious hole in the sand. It didn't look like anyone had dug it with their hands, as there were no footprints surrounding the hole. The whole thing was very peculiar. So the dog walker reached into the murky water inside the hole to see if there was anything in it. And sure enough, he found a large black rock, one that he believes may have come from outer space. The dog walker's name is Dave Kennedy. He suspects that the hole he found was the impact crater left behind when the meteorite crashed onto the beach. Now he's waiting to get the rock tested to see if he's the proud owner of a cosmic stone. This just happened in mid-September 2023, so the testing isn't finished yet. But if it does turn out to be a space rock, what do you think Dave will do with it? What would you do if you found a piece of the universe in a hole on the beach? Would you put it in a glass case? Or would you pull a Tutankhamun and have it fashioned into a dagger? Number 6. The Weird Koala. Scientists may have just discovered a fossil that could close a 30-million-year gap in the records. They found the mineralized teeth of a koala that was only the size of a house cat. Unlike Australia's most iconic creature, the modern koala, which is a pretty hefty fella, this newly discovered relative was tiny. It only weighed a couple of pounds, according to study leader Arthur Crichton from Flinders University. He was responsible for discovering its fossilized teeth in Australia's Northern Territory, and amazingly, the teeth appear to be 25 million years old. The new species was named Luma koala blackeye. Arthur says it likely ate a diet of soft leaves, but may have also feasted on insects. The initial analysis of its remains showed that it was definitely a member of the koala family, but it also matches very closely with ancient marsupials from 55 million years ago. The cat-sized koala might be a missing link between the older marsupials and Australia's modern koala bears. The discovery was an evolutionary stepping stone. The creature had features that were similar to earlier marsupials called Cholpasia and Thylacotinga. But it was more physically similar to koalas, just pocket-sized. Number 5. Origins of a failed liberation. A new DNA analysis, the first of its kind ever completed, has revealed the origins of enslaved Africans who perished on a remote island in the Atlantic Ocean. The group of Africans, which was made up of roughly 27,000 people, were taken from slave ships between 1840 and 1867. They weren't exactly taken, though. The correct word would be seized. This was a contentious point in British history, as they were trying to eliminate the transatlantic slave trade. The British wanted to abolish slavery altogether, while the Americans and several other entities did not. As part of the effort to dismantle slavery, the British seized slaves from slave ships, but unfortunately and very tragically, it was still a bad outcome for the African slaves. Many of the people who were seized were brought to St. Helena and were left there. They were housed in crummy tents in the middle of a dry valley. An estimated 8,000 people who were liberated by the British died from either disease or malnutrition. So in essence, the British placed the people on the island to make a point and then let them starve to death. This is a well-recorded incident in history. However, scientists and historians have never been sure where exactly the Africans came from. Now, though, scientists have analyzed DNA to track their origins. Researchers from the University of Copenhagen discovered that most of the people who were taken to St. Helena came from populations in Angola and Gabon. A vast majority of the individuals were male, abducted from a wide range of diverse groups who spoke different languages. But they were all brought on the ships together, then dumped on St. Helena at the end of what must have been a nightmarish voyage. If you found a rock that you thought was from outer space, What would you do with it? Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. Now let's move on to number 4. Number 4. The oldest army ant. Since the 1930s, a peculiar piece of amber has been stored at Harvard University. Christine Sosiak from the New Jersey Institute of Technology was investigating amber ant fossils when she came across the specimen that had been mistakenly identified. The piece of amber had been sitting collecting dust for nearly 100 years, so she took the amber out and studied it, learning that it formed 35 million years ago. And trapped inside the amber is the oldest army ant that's ever been found. Underneath the microscope, Christine was able to identify the ant as an entirely new species. Then she used photography and microscopic CT scans to create images of the creature, as well as a 3D model. The shiny brown ant is perfect inside its amber casing. The biggest shock was that the ant didn't have any eyes. Most modern species of ants have eyes, but this ancient species was blind. All evidence points to the new species being an army ant worker. It likely hunted in a massive raiding swarm, tracking juicy food using pheromone trails. It lived a nomadic lifestyle, dwelling in temporary underground shelters. Christine said the worker ant likely got lost. It veered away from the pheromone trail, got stuck in tree resin, and then was perfectly fossilized. The team named the new ant Dissimilodorylus Perseus, with the last part of the name being based on the Greek hero Perseus. Number 3. Ritual beheadings. In the ancient Maya city of Moral Reforma, archaeologists have discovered evidence of ritual beheadings. The ancient city is in the state of Tabasco, and it was established around the year 300 AD. Moral Reforma became a major center for trading along the San Pedro Mathia River. It prospered for a little over 400 years, gradually growing into a metropolis. This place had towering pyramid complexes. There were communal plazas and royal palaces. But by 756 AD, doom had come to the Maya Empire. Much like many of the other great cities in Mexico, Moral Reforma was abruptly abandoned. It's unclear exactly what happened, only that everybody left and never came back. In April 2023, archaeologists with the National Institute of Anthropology and History discovered 13 burials in the ancient city. The burials are directly in front of one of the pyramid stairwells. Tourists who'd been walking across the site to stand at the base of the pyramid had been walking over unknown graves. Researchers excavated the graves and studied the remains of the dead, and 2 of the individuals had been decapitated. Researchers think they were victims of ritual sacrifice, which spiked in popularity around 600 AD. The rise in ritual sacrifice coincided with the demise of the Maya. Several of the burials also showed evidence of cranial deformation. This was a practice done primarily by elite Maya. It would be like if the top government officials all modified their skulls to be oblong, looking like aliens. Researchers think these elite members of society may have been offered to the gods as sacrifices too, only they didn't lose their heads. Number 2. Human brake pads. If you've ever wondered why you have elbows and shoulders, this next discovery is for you. It turns out that humans can thank our ape ancestors for having such flexible shoulders and elbows. Scientists just discovered that these 2 important features of our bodies evolved as a natural braking mechanism. Chimps and humans both have flexible shoulder joints and elbow joints, which evolved specifically to fight the effects of gravity on their heavy bodies while climbing down trees. Having such flexible joints resulted in a finely tuned safety system that decreased the risk of falling. Scientists made the discovery by watching endless hours of video, footage of chimpanzees and sooty mangabe monkeys. Sooty mangabe monkeys are more distant in the evolutionary family tree than chimpanzees and Homo sapiens. But researchers noticed that although both animals climb trees with their shoulders and elbows bent toward their bodies, they descend differently. Chimps are far more flexible. They extend their arms over their heads while climbing down trees, just like the way people climb down a ladder. The maneuver almost certainly helps chimpanzees slow themselves as their chunky bodies are pulled toward the ground by gravity. It's a cool discovery because it shows just how much of our DNA came from evolving monkeys. The reason you're able to climb down a ladder safely today is that chimpanzees evolved to do the same thing, as they descended from trees millions of years ago. Number 1. The Bloody Walls of Armageddon. Using the latest in research technology, archaeologists in Israel have discovered a military encampment from the Roman age. Alongside the military encampment, they found an arena that was designed for combat training. And interestingly, the combat arena has blood-red walls. The Roman military camp was found near Armageddon, the very place where, according to the Christian Bible, the fight at the end of the world will take place. The camp is about 1800 years old and was discovered buried underneath some crop fields in the Jezreel Valley. Scientists use ground-penetrating radar to map the structures without physically having to dig them all up right away. The technology works by sending high-frequency radio waves into the ground. These radio waves then deliver pulses back to the equipment, which can be mapped. The result is a blueprint of everything hidden underneath the dirt. The radar revealed the perimeter of the base, the headquarters, and the arena. The whole thing appears to have been an enormous complex. There were also religious structures and an administrative center. Then, outside the walls of the base, researchers found a cemetery and amphitheater. Once the features were identified, it was only a matter of excavating them. When the researchers revealed the troop combat training area, they were shocked to find remnants of red paint on the walls. The walls weren't stained with blood, but they were painted blood red. Maybe it was a way to encourage bloodlust in the Roman warriors as they trained. Which of these incredible recent discoveries did you like hearing about the most? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.